Life can be so confusing, and so many people disagree. How do we tell what's the right thing to do? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Now, I'm going to give you four should statements. And I want you to consider these statements and think about how they're different. The first one is, you should eat your vegetables. All right, you should eat your vegetables. Number two, you should eat your salad with a small fork. All right, now think about those two shoulds. How are those two shoulds different? You probably would guess the first should is telling you what's in your best interest, right? What's going to help you to thrive, eating vegetables. The second one, it's not really going to help you to thrive to eat with your, the salad fork. Maybe in a less, more derivative sense. But really, that is more of an etiquette should, right? It is polite to eat with your salad fork, I suppose. I don't know. Number three, you should drive on the right-hand side of the road. Now, I noticed, by the way, in my YouTube stats, I'm getting a lot of philosophers looking from the UK. So, yeah, for you guys, that's obviously not a polite thing, right? That's not an etiquette thing. Then that's not a health thing, but it's a legal thing, right? And notice how this should depends where you are, right? This in the United States, you should drive on the right-hand side of the road is true because that's our law. In the UK, it's the opposite. You should drive on the left-hand side of the road, and I've done it before, and it is mind-blowing. Oh man! Actually, I did it in Japan, in Tokyo. My buddy Oates was out there, and I went to visit him, and he had me drive, and it was crazy, man. Like you want to turn. Oh man, when you're turning, you're turning. You're going from the wrong, from what it seems like the wrong lane, and you're looking like, wait, which lane am I going into? Crap, Oh man, it was gnarly. Anyway, and then finally, you should feed a starving child. Now, what's different about that should, right? I have, the healthy should, the politeness should, the etiquette should. The third is a legal should. What kind of a should is this last one? You should feed a starving child. Well, now, what's interesting is, and you may notice this, when you hear this list of shoulds, you pick out the last one as a moral should, just automatically, right? There's nothing I have to say. I don't have to say, like, everybody agree, right? It may be a legal should as well. I mean, a lot of these overlap, right? It is in your, it is kind of, a health should to drive on the correct side of the road, or else you're going to die. But it's not in the same way as the vegetable should, right? In the same way, when you say I should feed a starving child, it might be legally binding for me to feed a starving child. But there's also this other way that we can interpret that, right? That it seems like automatically comes, right? That we see that there is a way that things should be. And this should, sometimes philosophers point out, it seems like these other shoulds are for some ultimate purpose, right? You should eat vegetables if you want to be healthy, right? You should eat your salad with your salad fork if you want to be polite. You should drive on the right-hand side of the road if you want to follow the law. But you should feed a starving child. There's no if it's just, you just should, right? What is it about these shoulds that make them different from the other kinds of shoulds? Now, not all philosophers are going to agree with that, by the way, and that's totally fine. And if you disagree with that, totally fine. But for those who do, right, what makes those things different? What makes those shoulds different? That's the big question in ethics. But it's not so easy to figure out what is the right thing to do. What is this moral should? So, for example, I used to live in Philadelphia, and there's a huge homeless population. At the time, I was a military pilot, and it was very soon after 9/11, and we were always getting deployed. And so there were times when I had to leave my apartment brand new wife, by the way. I had just gotten married. The first year of marriage, I saw her less than 100 days. That was crazy. I mean, for her especially, she's from Albuquerque, and to live in Philly, middle of Philly, man, it's a different place. No friends, you know. She was a very courageous person. But in any case, oftentimes when I was walking to or from the apartment, and somebody asked me for money, I would offer to buy them food, right? And the reason being because I was concerned that some of them would use it for alcohol. In fact, oftentimes they would ask me for money for alcohol. And sometimes when I brought them in, I would offer, you know, I personally, I'm an alcoholic and I don't like contributing to that, right? I don't, not because I'm judging people, but because I don't want to think like I'm helping somebody to destroy themselves, you know? I hated it for myself, and so I'm glad that I don't have to, and I'm glad when I can avoid helping other people destroy themselves. In any case, I would bring them sometimes into the place where we were going to get some food, and there would be times where you could tell like that's not really the reason why they were asking for money, even though they were saying I'm hungry. I remember one guy told me, "Hey man, can you get me a 40 for my birthday? It's my birthday, man." You know, and I was like, "I'll get you the sandwich, but you know, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna." And then a month later, that same guy said, "Hey, it's my birthday, man. You know, can you spare some money for a celebration?" And I'm like, "It's your birthday again? Wow!" And he didn't remember me, so he didn't get the joke. I thought it was hilarious. But in any case, so some of these guys, you know, you got to see them over and over again. Some of these guys, I was worried about, you know, them using this money for alcohol, so I would, you know, offer to buy food. But then there were times when I was, you know, I was getting deployed or I had a mission and I had to get there on time, and so I would I wouldn't have the chance to go buy food, right? So I knew I had money in my pocket. I could give it, you know. And one thing that I worried about is, am I withholding, you know, money from somebody who needs it to eat? You know, I mean, of course, you know, this person who's going to drink also needs to eat sometime, right? So I might be, you know, withholding money that I can actually help with, and or I might be helping somebody to further destroy their lives. Some people, I've asked this question of students of mine. You know, some students say, well, you know, it's not your job to figure out what they're going to do with the money. You know, you just give the money. Others that say, you know, like you need to be concerned with what they do with the money. And so if there's somebody that, you know, that looks like that they're questionable, you don't give it to them. Either way, it's not easy, right? I mean, either way, you're gonna have to make these tough decisions in your life, and they have serious consequence. I mean, imagine how you would feel if you turn someone down because you thought they were gonna use it for booze, and then you find out that person starved. You had the ability, right? Why did I care so much, right? They drink a few. Or imagine you find out a person dies of alcohol poisoning after you gave them that money. It was your money. They bought alcohol. They killed themselves, and it's on you. Wow, right? How do you decide that stuff? Well, ethics is also about kind of getting into the nitty gritty. We're going to provide you some possible ethical systems, and then from those ethical systems, we look down and we say, okay, in the everyday situation, how do I apply this system to figure out what's right and wrong? And remember what I always say, I think the best philosophy happens in dialogue. So please hit me up on the comments, ask me questions, tell me what you think, and tell me what you feed the homeless guys. The ones that you're not so sure, do you err on the side of giving out the money? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tag a friend so that they can share this conversation. And that's all I got for today. Adios.